But as you're having these fantasies and delusions, were those stimulated by the peer pressures of kids, ever how they were reacting to you, or was that something from home? Where'd that come from? Is what I'm getting at.
It came from different places. Part of it was home life. There were times in my life where I was raped. There was times I was beat. There was times I was mocked. There was hard times in school of not being able to catch on to what was going on. So there was a lot of stress over the years that just built up, and there was a breaking point. And so after being in the hospitals, after breakdown after breakdown where I couldn't take care of myself, but I would have delusions during those times, I would have imaginations you wouldn't believe. It was a time of growing for me that I didn't realize it was a time of growing. I didn't realize it was benefiting me. I was in the furnace, didn't know why, but the furnace just burnt away the impurities, and there was left what is good. And so I can be a good writer because all the bad was burnt out.
But how did you stay focused so that you didn't burn up during this process?
Well, I am a believer in Christ, and I focus on spiritual things. And so all through that time, even though there were things I did wrong, even though there were things that I did were just absolutely wacky, I still had my focus on my Creator. And He pulled me through all that. My faith was what was the focusing factor, and that's in my writings. And all through that time, I still clung to that. That's all I had. So I used that as my guideline. I used that as a way to develop myself so that I am a tool. I'm just a glove. And when I write, I allow my mind, it's a theater, to be turned on. I have to work hard at it sometimes, but I allow my theater of my mind to be turned on, and it just develops. I come up with ideas and write them down constantly, put them on the computer, and I'm able to then process what I do to make stories out of it, and it really benefits.
Curious, now when you were in college, pulling your all-nighters, were you just staying up naturally, or were you popping no-dos and those kind of
No, I
things?
never did drugs in my life.
Well, that's illegal drug.
I never did anything like that. The reason I thought that was such a good idea was I misunderstood the scriptures. I read in Proverbs 31 about the virtuous woman leaving her candle burning all night. Well, I missed part of it. I thought she was staying up all night. Well, a few verses before that, it says that she got up early and took care of her servants. But I missed that, and I thought since she kept her candle all night, she stayed up all night. I thought, well, they're pulling all-nighters. That's a smart, wise thing. So I started doing it, and it didn't work because that's not what she did. So
that's interesting, because I did that. Because I would pop some no-dos when I was in college, and then when I was starting to die off a little bit, I'd pop a no-dos, because I always felt that the smart thing to do is read that textbook now. Just read it real quick in the first month to have the whole thing read, so that when you're going through it in class, you've already been there. You can, and then when those no-dos, when you get ready to go to sleep, and you find out that you're not going to sleep, that's what broke me from studying that away, because just listening to you, a lot of students go through trying to trying to get the potential out of themselves. They know that they can do better, but they don't know what they have to do in order to do better. And as you're going through that, so that's where you reverted back to the Bible, and yet you still kept pushing yourself forward too.
Well, to me, when I read things in the scriptures that I know were good to do, then I push myself to do it. So we've had Bible studies since I was yay-high to a grasshopper, and I can't remember a time, holidays included, where our family didn't have Bible studies. So I stuck with that, and so to me, I found out that was important to me. And so it was important because I knew it was what we're supposed to do, and I wanted to. After years, I started wanting to. So what I found out, this was the truth, and I wanted to do it, would push me. I would push and push and push. And some people consider that a mental illness, that if you push to do what the scriptures say, you're sick. But to me, it was a strength. To me, it was what I really drew benefit out of.
That's why most presidents have mental disorders. Most successful people have a disorder from pushing to go beyond the norm. And that kind of says that that society itself, that's what the real behavioral disorder is, because they don't push, and people to an extent do strive to be average. You know, I understand that you've written a book. How did you get to the point to discipline yourself to write a book, and what did you write about?
Well, I started writing science fiction. My dad bought us cameras, Super 8mm cameras, when I was in high school, and I started wanting to make movies. So I started working on it, but I kept failing because I wasn't a writer. And then in class, when I learned that I could write, I started developing that. And over the years, I had a fantasy of being a person who would be a book writer and a movie maker. And so I started working on that when I was in high school. I would read books from the library. I would read detective stories and horror stories and all this. And I would combine it, and I would try to take my camera, write up a script, and try to make a movie on my own that was like mystery story sort of stuff. And later when I was watching Mod Squad and things like that while I was doing my homework in high school, it really motivated me to write detective stories. So I combined all that when I got out of college. I combined all that, and my workings are a mixture of science fiction, detective love stories. And so I understand there's really importance in communication, relationship, and all the things that I watched, the police shows and all that were on TV, really inspired me to keep the law and to support it and to write stories along that line. So I took a long time to develop that ability. When I came to the Carriage House, I had only partly written my first book. After I came to the Carriage House, it was from my last hospitalization back in '03 that I came to the Carriage House. And from being there, the benefit of the place somehow enhanced my ability to write. And so I struggled through the writing. I decided, well, after getting accomplishments at the Carriage House in some places, I finally got the confidence, I bet I can finish a book. I've been wanting to write, but I never had the confidence I could really accomplish a completed project.
Now, what is the Carriage House, and what is their purpose in working with people?
Well, the basic idea of the Carriage House is to reintegrate people with mental illnesses into the community, back into the community. And so we come to, as members, we come to the Carriage House, and as we want to be a member, we go through a short process, and we have to meet certain qualifications in order to be a member. But after we're a member, it's always a place we can come back to, and each day we can go to the Carriage House, and if we choose, we can get involved. And there's so much to be involved with at the Carriage House. There's all kinds of programs, activities that we develop as staff and members work together. So a lot of times people walk in, you can't tell the difference between staff and members, but we're all working together side by side, and we develop teams together. Somebody comes up with an idea. I bet this would make a good team, a good idea for a team. This function needs to be done, and so out of the need comes the invention of the team, and so different teams are formed, and I'm on different teams at the Carriage House. And as we develop ourselves in these teams, then we grow a lot in our personal lives. And as I got involved in some of these things, my ability to think, oh, I can be a writer, really took hold of me. And so I finished my first book. Being a member as a member of the Carriage House, I finished my first book. And then I got more confidence. Wow, I've got a completed work. I'm going to do more. So right now I'm working on 2 more science fiction books, and I'm working on some other projects as well, writing. And so it's really growing.